1970s were a great time for the growth of the SLR. In the 60s, with Canon, Nikon and Pentax, we had seen an evolution of the camera. Some manufacturers had almost ceased camera manufacturing in Europe because of costs. For example, Carl Zeiss had some superb cameras, but the price of manufacturing had rose so much that they just couldn't compete. But they still made excellent lenses. And in the early 70s, Zeiss looked for a partnership with a Japanese company, and they came up with a partnership with Yashica. And the idea was born to make a new Contax. Now, Contaxes were fantastic cameras from the 30s and 40s that very much rivaled Leica. Some people claim that they were far superior to Leica. Not going to get into that argument now. So in 1974, with also arrangement with the Alexander Porsche design group, they came up with this rather nice thing, and this is the Contax RTS. Other models were to follow. At first sight, this would appear very conventional. When you look at it more closely, it's got one or two slightly interesting design features. Initially, very easy to open the back and to load a film, and we have a traditional focal plane shutter, a cloth shutter there. From the points on here, I think we can use a motor rind. But when we start to look at the top plate, things get a little bit different. It is manual focusing, so that's quite straightforward. But where we would expect to see a shutter speed, we have a ISA, now known as ISO. Film speed setting is there. So where's your shutter speed? The shutter speed is on here. But on here we also have something called A. Now A, you could say is automatic, or actually it's for aperture, because if we put it on A and I look through the viewfinder, now to get the meter working, that was a bit of a puzzle for me. I thought, I'm getting no meter reading. You have to press this little button here, there, and as soon as I do that, I get the meter operating, and as soon as I change the aperture, the shutter speed is changing, and I can see that in the window. Okay. Now, if I put it on the shutter speed, so I'm going to select 125, I look in here. It's interesting, I've then have a little needle which was on A, but the needle is now on 125. So I can see that I've selected the 125. And if I press the meter control here, I can then adjust the aperture so that the dot then lines up. And that is basically it. There's a self timer here. Batteries go in here at the bottom. It is a well-built camera. It's not a light camera. The idea of these cameras were to be semi-professional, top-end amateur. To the Yashicas were thought to, be a little bit cheaper, and it was thought, and it did happen, that Yashicas were sometimes sold with Zeiss lenses, especially the planar lens, which is a gorgeous lens, which I have got one, but I haven't put it on this camera this morning. At the moment I've got a 28mm lens. They are a really nice camera to use. Manual rind on. So lots of traditional camera features here, but one or two slightly novel features which we would then see progress into other models. Oh, I have forgotten about the adjustment you can make for plus and minus f-stops or shutter speeds on here as well if you are in aperture priority. Very nicely styled. Oh, one problem can be this rubber finish they put on is notorious for getting sticky. By using a little bit of cleaner, you can get rid of that stickiness. You do take some of the surface off, but I find that is preferable. If you find one, they are very nice cameras to use. But how did I get on when I actually used it with a film?
It was a lovely June evening when I tested this camera, and the light was super. Well, it was fading a little bit, but I was quite impressed with this lens, which isn't the greatest lens in the world, but it was moderately sharp. The exposure system, pressing the little button as I demonstrated in the video, works very well, and you have the choice of aperture priority, or you can put it on manual. I quite like it in aperture priority, and the majority of the time on this film, that is how I had the cameras set. It felt like a proper camera. It is a traditional camera. It's well made. It has this photo I had stopped down one more stop to the previous image. I was sort of playing around with the difference between aperture priority and manual. As I said, the light was fading, but I quite like this evening light, and as you can see, the cow's parsley was definitely in profusion this evening. The evening I took the photos. The camera, when it was launched, the RTS, it was the first of a really good line of cameras that followed, and there's the Contax 137s, 139s, there's a whole variety of models, and they received good press. As you can see, that this lens isn't brilliant when shooting into the sun. You can see that polygon there. If it was a really high quality lens, I would have less edges, I think, on it. This is called 10 Hatches, which is a sort of river gate to control the water meadows in Dorchester, and it's featured in the Mayor of Castlebridge, and I've shot it in other photographs. I really enjoyed using this camera, and I look forward to actually using it again. It's sometimes a bit frustrating. I do these videos, which I really enjoy doing, but there is a point where I would actually like to use certain cameras a little bit more. So be prepared in the future. I might revisit some of my favourite cameras, of which I think this Contax is going to be on near the top of the list. It's a really nice camera to use. I've got some other Contax lenses and the Yasika lenses that I would like to experiment with. Thank you for watching. If you find a Contax RTS and there's other models, why not have a go? Thanks for watching. Bye for now.